Secrets. They can eat us alive. The knowledge that something that you are aware of could affect others so massively, but it's something that you could never share with anyone. Where is that balance between what is morally correct to say and what is better unsaid to protect oneself? Tina Satter's debut film Reality explores these themes in an intriguing way, filled with verisimilitude and stellar performances from its leads. The film centers on Reality winner, a former U.S. intelligence specialist who leaked confidential information concerning Russia's involvement in the U.S. 2016 elections. So the film opens on Reality in her office. It's a scene that feels very insignificant and ordinary due to the bland color grading, the lack of any sound or music with the exception of buzzing lights and background news, and this very stationary camera angle. So Reality seemingly lives a normal life. She goes grocery shopping and she comes back to her humble home in the suburbs, but when she arrives, a group of investigative officers surround her home, as they're aware of what she has done. They take her to an empty and quite eerie room in her house for questioning, and rather than attempt to coerce a confession out of her, they instead try to attach a motive to the crime because they already know what she did. So there are a plethora of investigative tactics used by the officers, and the most apparent one seen throughout the film is the technique of theme development, which basically takes an empathetic approach towards the subject to blame the crime on other circumstances, which kind of leads back to, how they knew all along that it was her. But they wanted to explore her side because they didn't see her as a bad person with malicious intent. So the film goes on and the interrogation proceeds, but during the climax, what I would call the climax of the film, a snail appears. And I was really confused while watching. My first thought was that snails often symbolize, slow progress through perseverance, and Reality did live a pretty ordinary, I guess you could say, slow life up until this moment. So this could symbolize her moral awakening as a person once she decides to leak the information for what she thought was the good of the American people. And then later, there was also a focus on some type of bug. So at this point, I came to the conclusion that these heavily zoomed in shots could reflect on human nature, and how we tend to dramatize a situation when we're feeling overwhelmed, and instead of focusing on the issue facing us head on, we try to focus on other things around us to try and level that stress. So during this time of the film, the color turns like a pinkish hue, pretty gradually, but the color is very intense. And this color can often be associated with emotional claustrophobia, which is very fitting because at this point of the movie, it feels incredibly claustrophobic. The camera angles become increasingly closer and much more focused on Reality, symbolizing how she's becoming more trapped as she's realizing that there's really no way out, that they already know the truth. And throughout her occupation, dealing with a lot of confidential information, she's been sworn to secrecy, and she doesn't feel as though she could share not only the information, but her frustration surrounding all the information, which again pertains to the emotional claustrophobia. However, pink also symbolizes a childlike innocence and a sense of naivety, which could express how her intentions were truly pure and came from a place of goodness. So this film was not only based on a true story, but it directly took the dialogue from a real investigation of Reality winner, including literally every insignificant and significant detail. And how could I speak of the movie Reality without discussing the reality behind the movie? So Reality winner was a real woman, and she was driven by that feeling of the American people not getting the whole truth. And it was this kind of moral epiphany that led her to leak the information, even though she understood that she could put the country's security at risk. So she pleaded guilty in court and thus was given 4 years in prison, which is the longest sentence ever given for sharing information protected by the government. Sydney Sweeney's portrayal of reality was golden. And although I definitely had my doubts after seeing her in Euphoria, the role is very different from others she had taken on, and it really showcased her range and ability to bring a script to life very well. I think the main difference between this character and her others is that although reality is she seems very stressed and overwhelmed throughout the entire investigation, her face doesn't show it as much. She doesn't have many outbursts. She keeps herself very reserved, which could have been a directorial choice because, the dialogue just came from the recording, to kind of show how she hides her emotions as she's had to do over the years dealing with the confidential information. I really do believe that this movie could have been incredibly boring. In fact, I really was expecting it to be just from reading the synopsis. But once I gave it a try, I realized the meticulous direction from Tina Satter in order to make the watch a pleasant one and leave you questioning your own morality as a person. The way that this movie was created on just a simple recording is very impressive, because all the other aspects of the movie were perfect. And it's a really refreshing example on how a story can be brought to life so deeply with creative direction, even when it's limited to a strict script. The blocking, the acting, the costumes, the setting, and most importantly, the coloring and the camera focus all made the movie an entertaining and almost eerie watch, which I would classify this movie as a crime drama, primarily, which is pretty self-explanatory, but honestly, it is on the line of horror, not in the typical scary or even psychological way, but in the way that I just felt really unsettled as I was watching it. I would really recommend this movie to pretty much anyone, because I'm the furthest person from a crime drama fan. I normally stray away from that. I don't find it that interesting, especially after reading the synopsis. I was really not wanting to watch this movie, but I found myself very intrigued. I was never bored. I was always on the edge of my seat. And the creative choices made by the crew really saved this movie. And the best part about any movie to me is its ability to leave me thinking. It leaves me questioning my decisions and reliving moments in my life that left me feeling a similar way to how I felt after watching the film, or better yet, leaves me with an emotion that I've never even seen before. This movie left me uncertain of my morality. We all have our secrets, but how do we know when it's time to reveal them, or if there ever is a time to reveal them? I see myself as a good person, fundamentally. But so did reality when she leaked the information. She thought she was doing a good thing, though she knew it was a violation of the Espionage Act. The way she was portrayed by the press was not as a good person doing a good thing for our country. Others saw it as putting our country at risk, betraying the trust of her work and the government. But she was so sure of her act.